Is that a dog getting a drink?
It sure sounds like it.
Doesn't do anything quietly or gently or just a lumbering dog.
That's funny. Well, I've got 8 o'clock, so I think we'll get started. And then if Brad joins us, then he joins us. And if he doesn't, it's because he forgot. That's right. Let's get everything up here.
He may be peeling kids off the ceiling. They picked up their candy from the
Did they get it picked up?
Huge.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Ozark United Methodist Church Companion Podcast for Tuesday, December the 15th. My name is Joey Mills, and joining me today, we've got, we didn't practice. Just randomly throw your names out there.
Jacob Schneider.
David Bell.
Melissa Vino.
And this week we are continuing our Advent discussion. This week we're talking about the specific, particular incarnation of God's love in Jesus Christ. Plus, we have some announcements about upcoming podcasts and services that you will definitely want to hear. Before we get to all of that, Brad has joined us. Say hello, Brad.
Woohoo! Hey, guys.
Good to see you, man. Let's start with a word of prayer. Who would like to pray us in this week?
I can do that. I'd be happy to do that.
All right.
God, we give you thanks. We give you praise. We give you thanks and praise in this season of Advent. And I pray, God, that you would use this season in our lives to draw us closer to you, that we would see you more, that we would know you more, that we would love you more. And I pray you would use this time together, this time of holy conversation, to just show yourself to us. Be with us, be with those who gather, who listen. Just continue to guide and lead and teach us. All of this we pray in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. So this week, it was the third week of Advent, the third Sunday of Advent. It's the pink candle, for those of you who are trying to figure out which candle to light, the joy candle this week. Let's talk a little bit about the sermon from last week. What, in the preparation of the sermon, in the listening or the participating in worship this week, was there anything that jumped out at you from the sermon this week?
I have something.
Please, take it away.
So I've thought about this, and when you were preaching about it Sunday, this question popped into my head when you were talking about why the shepherds, like, why did the angels come to the shepherds to tell about the birth of Jesus? And so I was thinking about that, and my question to myself was, yeah, so if the angel had appeared to the religious leaders of the time, the story would have gone completely differently. Like, because, the religious leaders probably would have then believed he was the Messiah. And so in my head, it's like, well, then the angel couldn't appear because then don't you think the Pharisees would have believed that he was the Messiah? I don't know.
Maybe, maybe not.
That just really started thinking. I was like, appear to somebody who's not the religious leaders, because had the religious leaders been told by an angel, you'd like to think that they'd be a little more likely to have believed it, and that would have changed the whole story.
Yeah. And I think that's go ahead, David. Go ahead.
That's assuming that they believe the angel.
True.
Their preconceived notion about what the Messiah would look like and be like would have pretty much precluded any kind of poor young family in a stable giving birth to God's deliverer. So I think had the angel appeared to the religious leaders, it would have fallen on deaf ears, just like the appearance of Jesus in their midst fell on deaf ears.
Right.
When they saw him in the flesh, they couldn't believe who he was. I think they appeared to the shepherds because they were the only ones awake.
Could be. That's a pretty good point there.
Maybe they just appeared and the shepherds happened to be the only ones outside looking up at the sky.
Could have
That's
been
possible.
anybody. Anybody who was out there to see it.
I think it does bring up a question or a point that you made in the sermon is, why not someone more respectable? Why not someone who would be believed? That's the interesting part to me is you appeared to liars and thieves. How would the story have been different if it had come from a credible source? Because we look for that now. We currently attempt to, most of us, hopefully, look for credible sources when we're looking for information. I don't know. I'm stopping myself because I could have rabbit holed that thing into a whole political thing, but I didn't. But so I pat myself on the back for that. But we tend to look toward sources that have some authority or some credibility at the bare minimum. But yeah, the shepherds were seen as you couldn't trust them. They were, their word was not admissible in court. I mentally like the idea of, the angels appeared to the outsiders first with the good news that you are no longer on the outside. You are on the inside of the kingdom. But the other half, the other half of my brain is like, but couldn't you have told an outsider that somebody would have believed? And I think the answer is no, because they are on the outside, because they couldn't be believed. So it's a weird thing to wrap my head around for me is, go to someone, if you go to an authority like a religious figure, like you said, it changes the story, possibly, potentially.
Yeah. So there are two things there. I think in what we've been talking about so far. So I've been thinking about this because in a couple weeks, the start of the next series I'm planning ahead for the next sermon series, and we're going to be talking about faith in that first week. And so, not to drop too many, spoilers, but when I talk about faith, faith is not knowing. Faith is not, faith is trust. And I equate it to like a courtroom. We have witnesses in a courtroom, and the judge adjudicates based on the testimony of those witnesses, and they're believed or they aren't believed. But you scrutinize the believability of those witnesses. You scrutinize whether they're trustworthy or all of these things. And I think it's no different when it comes to belief. Because belief really is believing the witness of another, because we don't see it firsthand. We're having to trust the witness of someone else. And if your witnesses are the bottom rung of the societal ladder, that's problematic. But the second thing is, and I think this gets to really what I was, trying to wrap my head around, or just get my head inside, was that it was this particular way. There's no other story, right? This is how it happened. And I think that's what I was getting at. And sometimes at some point, we're going to have to wrestle with that it's this particular story. And so I have to think that God was trying to communicate something specific in appearing to these shepherds. And that's what we have to wrestle through, I think.
But all of Jesus' ministry was unlikely, folks. The women discovered the empty tomb. The woman at the well was a Samaritan lady of ill repute. time and again, Jesus does the unexpected, and part of that is that his message is for all people. It's not just for the wealthy. It's not just for the elite. It's not just for the religious establishment. It's, he came for the whole world, and his the example he set time after time after time reinforces that.
Yeah.
Radically egalitarian. Just like it's the ground is level at the foot of the cross. That's what I like to say.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that anybody keyed on or picked up this week?
Well, the good reminder for me was that this time of the year we always talk about love, hope, joy, and peace. They're not abstract concepts. They are a person, and we have met that person, and it's Jesus Christ, and that was the take home line for me out of the sermon.
It's funny you mentioned that, David. That was exactly what I wrote in my notes, because every time, when Jacob, when you were kind of talking about that right at the beginning, love, joy, hope, peace, and I'm like, man, those feel like fruits of the Spirit, right? And I'm just like, and then my kids, their daycare at Grow to Know, they have this song, fruits of the Spirit, or love, joy, peace, patience, on and on and on, and it just kept running through my head the whole time, and I'm like, there's a lot more to that, right? Because we talk about this when we're talking about Advent and what the candles represent and how Jesus embodied those things, and how when you talk about the fruits of the Spirit and the types of the things that believers are supposed to be able to share and to show is through that, and I just, that was the neat moment for me. I thought that was cool, and it's not just because that catchy Bible verse song got in my head and just kept playing over and over again. But anyway.
No, I think that's a good point. I had that noted as well, that we do abstract it. We abstract it in our churches. We abstract it in our lives. We abstract it in our society, our culture. We say we want mercy and grace and those types of things, but then we build structures that are lacking mercy and grace. We say we want love and kindness and gentleness, and we build up things in our lives, walls, barriers that are the antithesis of love and empathy and kindness and gentleness. And because yes, we can all define those words slightly differently. What I think of as love will be slightly different than what Melissa thinks of as love, which will be slightly different than what Brad, we'll be 80-90% in agreement, but we'll have some things that are slightly different. Whereas, in the living testimony of Christ, there's no room for changing the definition or interpreting it differently. It's clear what it is that love looks like if we're looking at Christ as the example of love, or mercy, or grace, or kindness, or gentleness, or peace, or joy, or happiness, or whatever it is that we tend to just throw out there as, yes, we want that. But do we really want it? Are we really willing to sacrifice for those things? And I think that sacrifice piece is where we tend to get tangled up sometimes in our words and our definitions and our yeah buts, as opposed to just following the example of Christ.
Yeah, I was thinking about this week being Joy Week in Advent, and thinking about joy, and I allude to it. I wrote a newsletter article for this week, but I was thinking about it with that, and joy, it's really hard to define, and I just Googled joy, like joy definition, and of course you get the Merriam-Webster or whatever, or any of them, and it's like this feeling of happiness, or this emotion of being happy or fulfilled by success or well-being or things like that. or the expression of that emotion. And that's not what it is. Like when we encounter Christ, it's not what we encounter in Scripture at all. What joy really is. So yeah, I mean that's the whole point. I mean, there's a particular name and face to joy, hope, love, and that's who we're called to follow. So I mean, it takes some hard work on our end to weed through all of the the cultural understandings, the Merriam-Webster definitions that are, all over the place that many of us hold just naturally, intuitively, from the way we've absorbed, the world around us. So it takes a lot of hard work, and it takes sometimes being a contrarian. It takes sometimes doing the unpopular thing. So.
What else? Anything else from this week's sermon? All right, then we'll transition out of that. Let us know your thoughts. I mean, we all sat through the sermon. We took our notes. We knew we were going to do a podcast, so we were prepared. But a lot of you watched the service, live, or you caught the recording, or you were there in person. Let us know your thoughts on anything that we've discussed during the Advent season. You can let us know your thoughts on social media. You can find us at Ozark UMC on Facebook and Twitter, or you can email us at podcast@ozarkumc.org. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to include your thoughts and your comments and your questions in upcoming episodes of the podcast, or just in conversations in the hall, or wherever the case might be. So this is the third week of Advent, and all throughout Advent, we've been spotlighting different pieces and parts of the ministry at Ozark UMC. This week, we are, we started with the praise team. We put out the Spotify playlist. I hope people are listening to and enjoying that. That's been fun. Last week, Mike, of course, gave us a bit of a tour of the renovations upstairs. And then we had, of course, the Christmas program, which was unlike anything that we have attempted in the past. And I feel like we were amazingly successful, more so than I think we even had thought we could be with that. I know we've had a lot of feedback, and a lot of folks enjoyed that. I hope you've had a chance to watch it. If not, it's still out there. It's still on Facebook and YouTube and on our website. Go check it out if you haven't already. This week, we are talking about our congregational care ministry. It's something that it's not flashy. You don't know about it until you have to know about it, it seems like, in a lot of cases. But David Bell, you put together a piece for us for the website this week, kind of talking about the mission of the Congregational Care Ministry. Can you kind of shed a little light on what it is and what it is that your team does?
Well, basically, the Congregational Care Ministry was created to support the work of the pastor in caring for the members of the congregation. Most specifically, what our role has been is hospital visitation, visiting folks in care facilities, nursing homes, visiting people in their homes that maybe can't get out and about. Once COVID came along, that became a lot more complicated, and a lot of the care ministry has been reduced to making phone calls and just trying to stay in touch with people and let folks know that we haven't forgotten about them. And but probably also because of COVID, we really need to expand that ministry even more, just to make sure that all people feel connected, and anybody within the congregation or the community that's not feeling connected or just need somebody to talk to, we'd like to reach out and help in some way in having those kind of conversations, and certainly being available to pray for people. The prayer ministry of the Congregational Care Team is a vital part of what we do. Everything is undergirded by prayer, and we like to pray with people before they go to the hospital or before they have any kind of an issue in their life that might be of concern. We want to be available to them and for them and with them. So that's I'm kind of rambling, but
no, that's really good. I think it's important this time of year. It's a time of expectation in the church, but for a lot of individuals, both inside and outside of the church, it can be kind of a tough time of year. We know
Absolutely.
that the holidays, just statistically, the data shows us that it's a tough time of the year for many. And you talked about, the prayer work that the Congregational Care Ministry team does. So what we're going to do, this is something that we've talked about. It's been in the e-newsletter. It's been in the slides before service and stuff. But what we're doing is tomorrow night, Wednesday night, today, if you're listening to the podcast on Wednesday, that would be the 16th of December. We are just opening up the Zoom channel that we have, and just inviting anybody who feels compelled to join us. Just in, we're just doing it like an hour of open prayer for the congregation, for individuals within the congregation, the community, the world, whatever the case might be. There's no agenda, there's no schedule, there's no set, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. You don't have to feel like you're a good public prayer or any of that kind of stuff. It's just a time to get together and as a community and pray for one another. Again, just because some people need that connection, especially this time of year, it's just an open opportunity to do that. So we invite everyone to join us for that. The information, how to join that Zoom meeting, is in the e-newsletter that went out today on Wednesday. If you're listening on Wednesday, if you're listening to us on Tuesday or watching us, it goes out tomorrow. That'll also be available on our social media, on Facebook, Twitter, all that. So you can find the information. And if you can't find the information for any reason, just reach out and ask somebody. Say, hey, I was thinking about joining you for the prayer meeting, but I couldn't find the information. Reach out to anybody. We'll get the information to you. Don't let that stop you. We will find a way to get the information to you if you're interested in joining us.
And this is not going to be broadcast on YouTube.
Correct.
On the Facebook page, and so that if anyone that calls in, that conversation is just with those folks that are in the Zoom meeting at that time. So you'll know immediately who's there and whether or not you feel at liberty to share with those folks, and we can even break away from the Zoom and pray privately if that's what that's necessary, that's what's needed. We just want to be available to folks and support them, and whatever issue may be going on in their life, we want to be able to pray about that.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a lot of talking. It doesn't have to be any talking. It can just be getting together to pray, even silently. So absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you made that distinction. It's not something that's going to be published or publicized. It is just for those who wish to join for that. So thank you for clarifying that. Let's spend a moment talking a little bit about this Sunday. It is the fourth and final Sunday of Advent coming up. What do we have planned that you can spoil us with regarding the sermon for this Sunday?
Yeah, so we're kind of backtracking a little bit this Sunday. We've been a little bit all over the place with Advent. We haven't been following the lectionary straight through or anything, but kind of backtracking a little bit, and we're going to be digging into the Song of Zechariah, who was, John the Baptist. We're going to be talking about John the Baptist and preparing the way for the one who is the joy of every longing heart. So that's the title of the sermon, the joy of every longing heart. And I think all of us at some level, we have that inborn desire, that longing for Christ. We're going to talk about kind of the form that takes and the answers that God gives and what we do with it.
Very good. So we will have that this Sunday. We will have two services still, 8:30 and 11. The 8:30 service will be live streamed. So if you can't join us, or you don't want to join us, or you choose not to join us in person for that, the live stream service will be available at 8:30. If you're not an early riser, then you can catch that at any time on our YouTube channel, on the Facebook page, on the website at ozarkumc.org. Whatever form it takes, whether it's in person, whether it's at home, whether it's somewhere else, on the road, traveling, whatever the case might be, we absolutely look forward to worshiping with you this Sunday. Let's do the kind of the programming announcements, talking a little bit about what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. This has kind of been put together, and it's been a moving target and a shifting thing for a while now. What do you feel comfortable talking about with this group?
So I think for our purposes, so those listening on Tuesday, we are going to be putting out, I will be putting out some communication tomorrow. And I'd really like the entire congregation to have access to it all at the same time, for everybody to hear at the same time. So it's very important. I know I would encourage everybody to look out for email, Facebook, all of our social media platforms. If you're listening to it on Wednesday, check your email, check social media and all of that. Important with everything going on, just communication that we'd like to keep open and share with you. So, yeah.
So check your email, or check the social media, or check the website. We'll have it in all those places. Yeah. And of course, it will be addressed, I'm sure, Sunday at the end of the service, both services. So just be in prayer this time of year, and be watching specifically as we talk about the services, the podcasts, all the things that we do. Just kind of be aware, be plugged in this time of year. I know there's a lot of things going on. It's crazy. We were talking before that we started rolling about, it's too close to Christmas, and yet it's not close enough to Christmas. So there's a lot going on for a lot of us. But just be plugged in to what's going on in the church over the next few weeks. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? I will say we could sure use some volunteers in the sound booth if you're one of those people who would like to participate in that in the new year. Maybe maybe one of your New Year's resolutions is, wow, I'd really like to find a place to fit in. Boy, we could use you. I think the three people that know how to run the live stream, 2 of us were quarantined and 1 of us was playing guitar, so nobody was running the live stream last week, from the booth at least. So if that, or helping with the sound, or Mike has talked recently about the help that's needed with getting the student and family ministry stuff off the ground. There is going to be a place for you, whatever your talents and interests are, in the new year. So be thinking and praying about that as well, I would say. Yep. All right, then. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Again, for Pastor Jacob, Pastor David, for Melissa and Brad, again, my name's Joey Mills. May the peace of Christ be with you this week and throughout the Advent season.
See you guys.